welcome to the pod for the listeners, for
Welcome.
everyone listening. This week, this week I went to get a coffee, right? And somebody walked past me who I didn't know, and they muffled something. And I'm like, right, okay, this bitch wants to die today. But it took me a long time to figure out they were just talking to someone in their very discreet earphones. So I will not say what actions I did to this person to find that out. But there you are.
Fucking.
Oh, it's John, by the way. It's John, in case you can tell.
Hello, Red here as well, obviously. And earlier this week, I had, in the span of like 30 seconds, had an insane level of coordination followed by an extremely low level of coordination. Where I caught a knife that was falling off a countertop and then immediately missed throwing a tissue into a bin that was a foot away from me. Somehow, both those things happened in the span of 30 seconds.
I'm really glad it's not the other way about. Imagine that if you missed a knife.
Oof.
There's a toe in my kitchen. Friends. Favourite line.
I absolutely got that reference immediately. There's a toe in my kitchen.
I love that line so much. Like, Judy as a character in Friends is just amazing. Like, they should just do more Judy. I'd have loved that. But Judy's not scary. And we're here to talk. We're here to talk about scary stuff.
As the week of the ween.
The week for the ween and the wicked. Ooh, spooky. I think probably one of the earliest memories of us two in Halloween. I might have mentioned it before. You were a wee red devil.
God, I vaguely remember that costume.
Maybe I was a vampire. I don't know. Bin bag cape, obviously.
I have that lower middle class costume.
I know. What is this? What, do you think my grand's out there fucking slaving out a costume for me? No. Love Halloween when I was younger. Loved that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a widespread thing. Like, I don't know how far it reaches, but typically in Scotland when you're doing like Halloween, you would call it guising.
Aye, it's a tiny bit different, in the sense that, I mean, the only major difference for what I can tell, really, for like trick or treating and then guising is with guising you're expected, the kids are expected to have some kind of joke or like talent of some kind that they throw out when they go to a door to like get the sweets. They don't. It's not just that. Oh, here you go. It's like, oh, what have you got for us? And then you've
got to earn it. You've got to earn it. It's a trick or a treat. So you've got to, you give the trick and you get the treat.
Well, it's not. I think this thing. It's not always. It's usually for my experience at least. The only time you would ever be expected to do it would be usually if it was like a party that you went to. Like if you went to a door and they were it was like a group of adults having a party, and then they would have all the Waynes come inside, and all the adults would be there getting drunk in the living room, and you and your group of pals would all go in and do all your performances, and then they'd all do their drunkenness, all be like, oh, that's amazing. You're their entertainment for the night. And,
pretty much, yeah.
But like, if you would go to like a door where it's just like, I don't know, like just a person just themselves answering the door, usually like, they usually wouldn't be as often that they would ask for it. No, unless it was like an older person. Like if it was like an old. If it was an old person, then usually they would still like be in the tradition of being like, "Oh, what's your joke?" and all this stuff.
Aye, what's your joke?
But it was a different thing. Every Halloween, you'd have to be like, right, what's my joke for this year that I'm going to tell at every single door that asks, because I need to have something.
You always had to have something in the back burner, because you could have like a couple of jokes, but they'll go, I've heard that. I've heard that
Aye,
after two other skeletons a night. What else you got?
aye.
You know, so sometimes it's like on the spot performance, like you're like, oh, Jings, what can I do, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I loved Halloween. A lot
Aye.
of people don't know that Halloween kind of originated in Ireland as a pagan holiday,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the traditions that they did in the pagan times, you know, still carry on today. Everyone like there's this kind of fad now about carving pumpkins and stuff like that. I mean, when we were younger, you would carve out your pumpkins, and that's where you would put or that's where you would go out with your candy, like, or you would have your little candle in the
Mm.
pumpkin, and you'd walk about with your wee bag, kind of thing.
Aye.
And the whole idea of carving faces on pumpkins, or as it originally was done, was turnips,
Aye.
because
I mind
pumpkins
that,
aren't a
aye.
big thing over here. You would carve a face in a turnip, and you would kind of go. And the idea is that the scary face in the turnip, well, you know, scares all the supernatural oogie boogie woogies away.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, like, I think a turnip is scarier than a pumpkin, because see, when a turnip rots, it does kind of go like leathery, like skin, whereas a pumpkin just turns to mush.
Aye. I do wonder why it got changed to like pumpkins. Maybe just because they're like quite big and easy to like
Mm.
carve faces into and stuff. Maybe that's why that started becoming the norm
I
that people would use.
I mean, I think it's definitely an American thing where it was pumpkins. 'Cause I don't know if I don't really know America, but I imagine that they are a lot more abundant in pumpkins than they are turnips. Does that
Aye,
make sense? I
especially
think
especially
turnips.
especially back like years and years ago when obviously they
Yeah.
wouldn't, you wouldn't be able to just import shit as easily.
What's your
Uh,
favourite scary movie?
what's your favorite scary movie? Uh,
I'm hanging up.
fuck. I actually watched Scary Movie recently. Again,
I love
it's
scary
so good.
movie.
Uh,
Honestly,
a proper favorite scary movie? Probably The Shining is my
The
favorite
Shining.
scary movie. Aye.
I mean, I
Aye.
wouldn't say that that's all that.
I mean, it's
I
no, it's
mean,
more,
if
it's more, it's. I mean,
psychologically scary.
nowadays it's more closer to like psychological thriller than like horror. It's definitely
Yeah,
still got some scary shit in it, but
I
aye,
like. Yeah, is the definitely is a scary movie to watch is a good one, because the minute where you know you're watching the intro and it's got like that really creepy drawn out music
mm-hmm.
and like almost like that long drive to the overlook. Yeah, it really puts you kind of on an edge for the rest of the movie.
That's a great
I
movie.
love that. I've read the book. The book's great. I think the scariest movie. Well, this is a thing, right? Because I watched The Fourth Kind. Have you ever heard of that?
The Fourth Kind. I don't think so.
Nobody has ever heard it, right? It
What is
stars
aye?
Mila Jokovic, right? And the only reason I watched it is because I like her, and you know, the idea of aliens is kind of a wee bit frightening to me, because are they real? Are they no? You know, that kind of
Mm,
whole thing. And I watched it hungover alone, and you know, even just thinking about it, I actually feel petrified. I
aye.
have to say, I've watched the movie since that time I watched it and was like freaked out, and I haven't even batted an eyelid, not even bothered about it. But there was just something about it watching when I was like hungover. You know, maybe there was already that kind of dread, and I didn't need more dread. But that was probably the scariest movie I've ever seen, and like felt scared after it. If that makes sense.
Mm.
In fact, right, I think I was 12, and I was like alone in the house. Maybe like my mum and dad were away. I mean, I was old. Like, I was old enough to kind of look after myself, like not burned in the house. And I remember watching a film called something like The Abduction of the McPherson Family, and it basically sparked this whole fear of alien abductions in me, because one, I was alone in the house, and it's like this found.
Aye, that's
It was like found footage. So I was 12,
uh
so I'm like,
aye.
you know, is this real? Is, you know, that whole going through my head, that was scary. That was a scary couple of hours. Hmm.
I remember what is funny to me is I remember when I was younger, that I watched one of the I think this is probably one of the first horror movies I ever actually watched was Scream.
Oh,
And
right, okay, yeah.
I think I watched it when I was like 9 as well, which is probably way too young. And I remember for like a couple of years, I was fucking terrified of the whole Ghostface mask and all that. Like, it actually terrified me because I watched it so young. But then after I got a bit older and I seen like Scary Movie and that, it was like that was it. It was gone.
Aye.
The fear was gone at that point. I was like, all right. But
that is good when it's good when you do get something like that that can kind of alleviate your fears. Where, yeah.
But I think if you ask me like what's the actual scariest movie I've seen, not necessarily my favourite scary movie, but the actual scariest movie I've ever seen, it's probably got to be The Grudge for me.
Oh, the Japanese or the American?
The Japanese one.
Japanese.
The American one's actually pretty good as well, but the Japanese one is fucking. That shit is spooky, man. That shit haunts me if I watch it.
It's really funny, like when we think of our ghosts or kind of like stuff like that. They're always like some high society Victorian person. They're never like you never look at them and go like, "Wow, you're scary." But in Japan, their ghosts not only are in the guise of small little girls, but they kill you in the most gruesome, horrible, like the whole ethos of like Japanese horror is to get you to die in fear. It's like just to like completely strike you of fear. It's you're right. Yeah, that's probably that's up there as one of the scariest, definitely.
Aye, that shit's fucking horrifying, man. That whole movie's just oof, man. Especially because like I mind watching it, and one of the classic things that everybody always goes to when they're like scared is like, oh, I'll hide under my covers. Like that's like, when you're a kid as well. You're like, if you're scared, they start you hide under your covers. You think I'm safe under here. And that movie's literally got a scene where a woman in her bed under her covers, and the fucking creepy ghost child comes from under her covers to get her. And it's just like, oh, nowhere's safe.
Nowhere. Not a single place.
Not even your safe place. You're no safe with this fucking thing.
I guess, as I say, like, Japanese horror is in its own element of horror. I think, like, it's just... It takes ideas that are already scary and it's like, oh, you wanted to go to the bathroom for a break? Or you wanted to go for a nice, relaxing, warm shower? Well, here's some bitch grabbing you from out your own skull.
Aye.
That kind of shit.
Here's a fucking horn coming out for your hair while you're showering, touching you. You just feel like, oh.
Very creepy. Very creepy. What's really scary about it is the ideas that it puts in your head.
Aye.
Like you say, if you're under the covers and you're expecting to be safe, and you see that scene, your safety instinct isn't going to be get under the covers. It's going to be run out the house, burn it down, find somebody with sage, get it blasted everywhere.
Oh, Jesus. Shit's fucking oof. I mean, the fucking The Ring as well. The Ring's original Japanese as well. That shit's creepy, having a fucking monster come out your telly come after you.
I love the way that Scary Movie ripped that off.
I do as well, aye.
With Brenda, I don't think I can ever find The Ring scary, or like after that was.
Aye, they did kind of this bitch is messing up my floor.
The TV's leaking.
This is so fucking good, man.
Just sitting there eating popcorn as that thing's crawling towards her for certain death. She's like, oh, love it. God. Absolutely love it. Have you had any like supernatural scary moments happen to you?
In real life?
No, that other life you've got.
My other life? My secret life?
The secret lives I've read.
Not really. I mean, I've never really believed in ghosts and stuff. Like, I've obviously, like, when I was younger, if I've seen scary movies and all that, it would put the fear in you. No matter how much you're like, oh, I don't believe in ghosts, it would still like make you feel fear, and after watching a movie, you'd be fucking, you hear a bump in the night when you're trying to sleep, and you're like, what was that?
Aye,
it freaks you out.
You're on high
alert.
But like,
and generally, I've never really believed in like the existence of like ghosts and all that, so I don't think I've ever really had anything like that happen. I've never had an experience that's made me think, that was a ghost or that was some supernatural thing, because I just don't really believe in any of that. So
it's a really good talking point. Like, you know, if you were somebody that did believe in ghosts, then noises that you hear you would attribute to ghosts, and it would kind of confirm your belief. But if you don't believe in ghosts, then, you know, bumps in the night, you're going to be like, well, that's just like a house settling, or, you know, it could be anything. Like, basically what I'm trying to say is that your first thought isn't, oh, that's a ghost.
aye,
But if you believe in ghosts, or if you want to kind of believe in that spirituality, that might be the first thing that you think of. Which I guess can add an element of fear to it. I guess if you're rational enough and you're like, I don't believe in ghosts, therefore no amount of noise or goings on could ever convince you that that was a ghost. But if you think that you do believe in ghosts, then, you know, you could have a really unpleasant night over a really innocent noise. Does that make sense?
It's like a confirmation bias kind of thing, where it's like, if you believe that kind of thing exists, then you're always gonna. It's always it's a conclusion you're going to jump to often when you don't know what the answer to something actually is.
Can I tell you some? Well, a scary thing that does happen to me sometimes is like I wake up screaming, for lack of a better term. Like I can get like really intense nightmares, and I feel really bad for Alan, because, like, you know, he's sleeping rather innocently, and then the next thing he knows, I'm just screaming.
Oof.
Like a banshee scream, like, ah, you know. A couple of the kind of memorable ones was, I woke up, if that makes sense. Everything was still dark. I think whatever it was, my dream, whatever it was that I was looking at, it was almost like a pile of flies, or, you know, something along that line, something creepy and crawling and flying, and they were all kind of almost like they were all over my face, and I was looking in a mirror. Does that make sense? So I'm looking at the mirror and I'm seeing all the things flying.
Right.
So I wake up, and it was like this weird transition where my brain is still kind of showing me these images of these things flying and crawling.
Oh.
But I'm awake. Like, I'm looking at my window ledge and my blinds and stuff like that, but I'm still seeing it. So in this kind of state of not quite being fully awake, but not quite, you know, I get up, I'm screaming obviously, and I turn on the big light, and I'm like, you know, and I'm like, where are they? I'm looking for them, you know, I'm convinced that they're there, and Alan's just lying in his bed looking at me like, bitch, go to sleep. Like,
he's just lying there like, oh, this shit again.
What is going on here? Like, you know, because you really shouldn't, like if somebody's in that state, the worst thing you can do is like try and jolt them out of it and like get them back in the real world. It can be really confusing. But another time where like I woke up screaming, it's weird. Like, I was conscious and awake, but you ever been in the Upside Down?
It sounds like it sounds kind of like sleep paralysis a wee bit, but the fact that you're able to like get up is also not. So it's kind of strange.
It is. It is just from like, it's stuff from when I was like younger, or when I feel anxious and stuff like that. It can just like come out in my dreams. But like, I'm in this like vast expanse of darkness and blackness, right? And there's like infinite. Like, this is obviously the dream that I'm having, right? And like, I just see this. It felt like a hand coming towards me, but like this, I can't describe the scale of it. Like, it was almost like I was like a speck of dust, and this huge, like, greeny, immobilist hand is coming towards me, right? And, you know, it's like, as you say, it's like sleep paralysis. I'm just like standing there, and I'm petrified this thing's coming towards me, and I just start screaming. And again, it's like, I'm seeing it as with my awake eyes. Does that make sense? Like I'm seeing it. My brain's
Aye.
trying to like show me it, but it's no there because I'm awake. Just this really disorientating kind of way to wake up. And the screaming isn't, it doesn't help. And that really freaked me out because I'm sitting there thinking, and I've read H.P. Lovecraft, where a lot of his horror comes from the unknown, and it's people, describing or trying to describe things that they see in their dreams. And I know there's stories, right? But I'm waking up and I'm like, it makes me doubt it. Like, I'm that scared. It's made me doubt rationality.
Aye. I totally understand that because I've had a time where I suffered sleep paralysis for quite a while. Back when I was living alone, I don't know what it was that caused it. Because I have no idea. But like there was a solid like few months where I was like had sleep paralysis happen nearly every night. It was just
That's scary.
every time, and I was just like, it made me not want to go to sleep because it fucking freaked me out so much every time it happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I'd be lying there in bed. All of a sudden I'd be like, I'd be in that sleep paralysis mode, but I'm like, I think I'm awake, but I'm knowing I can't move. And like,
Yeah.
a lot of the time when I go to sleep, I usually like will have my phone next to my bed, and I'll either have been watching something or listening to like music, like really quietly, like it's just barely loud enough that I can barely hear it when I'm like falling asleep.
Yeah.
And like while I'm in this mode of sleep paralysis, I can still hear what's playing on my phone, but I'm still technically half asleep, dreaming, and I can't move. But it's because I can hear that, and because I'm in my own bed, it feels like I'm actually awake. And then you have the fucking, the whole sleep paralysis demons show up, and I'm just sitting there fucking shiting myself. And it was like that was just happened so often for months, and I don't know what caused. I don't know what it was. It was happened for months, and then all of a sudden it just stopped, and it still happens like once in a blue moon, but not very often. And I don't know what causes it. I don't know what caused that to happen so much. Like I didn't feel like I wasn't really anything going on in my life that was making me like stressed or anything like that. So I've I genuinely no idea what it was that was causing it to just happen so often.
I mean, it could come. This is the thing; they can come from anywhere. Like these. The human brain is. I always say the human brain's the scariest fucking thing you'll ever have, because it can make you think. Like that, for example, it's like, what benefit does the body have in being sleep paralysis? Like, what benefit? Why is your body doing that to you, kind of thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, when your body like produces adrenaline when you need to run, so you can run faster and run away from the danger, that's a benefit. It can if you produce too much adrenaline and it's over a long period of time, high amounts of stress can result in a lot of cortisol in your body, all that kind of stuff. But there's a benefit to it, the adrenaline helps you run faster, get away from the danger so you can live. I have no idea what the evolutionary benefit of sleep paralysis is.
It's such a strange thing. And it's one of the things because it's like the whole like dreaming in general is just such a mystery still.
Yeah.
As well, like it's not something that's really understood, like how it works and why it is the way it is, and it's freaky shit.
I like the idea that sleep is a kind of way for your body to digest information. Like, if I don't know, like it's kind of your brain's way of mapping the world a little, or it's I don't know. There's a million and one theories, but I don't know. It's kind of scary sometimes because even in your dreams there can be wee things. Like, have you ever had a dream that you've you've had a waking moment where you've been like, I've dreamt to this? Like, no deja vu. Like, that you feel like you've seen it in a dream.
Aye, I've definitely had that before.
And I think a lot of people think that it's because they're psychic and the spirits are telling them, but really it's just your brain's seen it before, and then you'll have dreamt about it, and then the next time you see it, the last memory you have of it isn't you remembering it; it's of you dreaming it. Does that make sense?
Aye, it's such a strange thing. It always makes me like stop for a second. Like I'll have dreamt like that I was like with somebody and that they like tripped and fell. And then like and then it's like a week later or something like that, I'm hanging out with that person and they like fall, And that's my first immediate thought. Like, wait, did I not just see this happen? And I was like, wait, I dreamt this, and it's like it just makes me stop for a second to be like, what?
Again, your brain is just so scary. Like the tricks, the absolute tricks and treats that your brain can play on you. It's scary. It's so scary.
The brain is a mystery of a fucking thing. It's such a complex.
It really is.
It's fucking. It'll be crazy when it'll be such an interesting thing. What if it becomes so much more understood and how exactly stuff like that works.
Yeah, why it happens.
And why it happens and like what causes it, and if there's like ways to like, you know, change it with like, I don't know, drugs and stuff. You know,
well, yeah, like if definitely if there's somebody suffering there with like a really bad case of like sleep paralysis, and if there was something that could be done to help that, I'm on board, because they're honestly, sleep paralysis is really scary. I've had it a few times. Waking up screaming is really scary. The common denominator is it's your brain. It's your brain that's kind of feeding this information, this scary information to you.
And you're just like, you just sit there thinking like, why are you doing this to me?
Aye, why are you doing, like, when you're trying to get to sleep at night, and you know your brain throws you like a curveball where it's like, oh, remember you said that?
Yeah, remember this cringy thing you did like 20 years ago?
Aye.
And you're just like, why?
Betrayal.
No, I'm not sleeping for the next hour. I'm thinking about this. Yeah, can't damn you.
You know, your brain's meant to be on your team, you know, but it seems to be like literally throwing you off, like a saboteur.
Oh.
So, are you got any plans for Halloween? Are we doing anything scary or?
I mean, the only plan I've got is that, you know, if you're still planning having that having your party, that you might have people over on the Saturday if we're still doing that. Other than that, the actual Halloween day Sunday, I've got fuck all planned. I'll probably just stream, to be honest. Maybe I'll stream a horror game or something. I don't know.
Do you know what you should stream? Time Splitters, where you're in the mansion and it's the zombie monkeys. Do you mind that?
Oh,
no?
Aye. I do mind that, actually.
It was quite scary. I don't like the music's quite scary, if I remember right. Never mind the fact that you've got all these zombie monkeys coming to claim you.
I was like fucking the whole zombie Nazi thing before zombie Nazis for like Call of Duty. It was basically that ideal.
I hate how Call of Duty's got like this mass following, and Time Splitters has none. And like the people are struggling to make a fourth game because they're like self-funding it, and you've got like COD games that are like every year they're guaranteed.
Time Splitters is such a good series, and it's so underrated, and so it's just a small cult following that it's got, sadly.
I mean, like when I played Time Splitters 1, 2, and 3, because I remember the originals and stuff like that, I was blown away. I was blown away by the comedy, the action, the horror, everything about it. It was just such a good story, and they were just such good games. They really were. Great multiplayers as well. We've had many fun times.
Time Splitters 2 was like, it was one of the few games I'd played with my dad a lot. Me and him like played the whole story on co-op, because he got it for his I think he got it on his PS2, and I don't know, so we just played it on co-op, and it was such a great time. And then I remember the third one I got for my GameCube, and fucking loved that shit. We played it all the time. We always played the multiplayer and all that, and it's great. It
was such good fun. And the character designs were always like, they were just they were always like well thought out, even the silly ones.
Then they had some silly designs.
And they had some real lazy, silly designs, but every single one of them worked. You know, like even the really shitty one, I think it's like a cardboard box with legs or something.
Yeah.
Or a fishbowl. You know,
the fishbowl one is so weird.
But yeah, I love Time Splitters. That was such a good game. Bring that back. If you are listening to this podcast, please consider hyping up Time Splitters so they can finish Time Splitters 4.
Alright, and then also let them do a collection remaster of the first 3 games.
Oh yes, collection remaster.
That would be great.
Were they not Ubisoft? Were they Ubisoft?
It was the company. I think the company that published them went bankrupt years ago.
Was it Havoc? I can't remember.
Who was it? Hold on. I can't actually. I don't think Havoc's. I don't think Havoc is
Activision.
I think it was. It may have been
No.
Activision that thingied it. That produced it. Free Radical is who developed it, and they went out of business like fucking God knows how long ago.
Do you know they should have done what every other gaming company did and just rehash all their old games out every couple of years with just a slight difference?
Oh, it was EA. It was EA that published it. Aye.
That's a shame. That's maybe the only good thing that's ever came for EA.
It's fucking. I mean, they used to make some good stuff. They used to make some back in like early 2000s, 90s and stuff. They actually did make some quality shit.
They did, yeah, they did. But, Harry Potter 2.
Fucking Chamber of Secrets. That game
Love that game.
I played that game again recently, like this year. Just for laughs.
It's so fun.
It's such a fun game.
So fun. I don't know what happened to with the rest of the games. I think I only ever played the first one and the second one.
I never even played the first one. Chamber of Secrets was the only one of them I ever played. I never even knew there was any other ones. I mean, I assumed there was, but I'd never seen them anywhere.
See if you ever get a chance to play the first one, right? There is... we're talking about scary. This is maybe the scariest thing ever in a video game. It's this horrible, horrible game mechanic where you're in Gringotts, you're in the bank, and you're in the bank vaults, right? So you know how they go in that wee thing that spins around and it, it's like a track and they go all around the bank kind of thing to go to different vaults.
Aye.
So it's that, right? But you have to steer left and right to avoid things at the bottom of the tunnel. Does that make sense? So you imagine Sonic 2's Emerald game. Right? Now that was it for the Sega, so infinitely older than the PS1. And the system that has, the Sega one for Sonic 2, it's a fucking cake park compared to the horror and hell that you will endure trying to complete these trials and getting all the fucking Gringotts coins. It's bad. It's so bad. And let me tell you why it's bad, right? I totally forgot about this, right? The game will not let you progress until you complete one part of this fucking challenge, right? And anybody who's ever played Harry Potter PS1, sign off in the comments. Let me know the just the sheer endless hell that you endured trying to complete this. Look it up. Because honestly, it's just so fucking annoying. Do you know what? I'm perked right up now because just thinking about it, I'm flared up. I'm absolutely flared up.
Fucking hell. Feel memories for these childhood games that were shit and just fucking made you so angry. You've not thought about it in years.
Oh, I'm actually feeling it. I'm thinking now, remembering the PS1 loading up and just feeling dread knowing that I could. Because obviously I was a lot younger when Harry Potter came out when I was 11 or something. So, it didn't have the dexterity in my hands that obviously years of gaming has produced. But I think I went back to play it maybe last year, a couple of years ago, and I was still having the same difficulties. So it's just a broken game. It's shit. But if you ever play Harry Potter 1, let me know how you get on in that fucking Gringotts challenge. Because I swear to God, it has broke me. Because here I am, almost 20 years later, absolutely still fizzing at that one wee bit of that game mechanic.
The game lives in your head rent-free.
Rent-free. I'm putting out dinners and everything for it. Never mind just living rent-free.
Wow.
Well, have you got one of the games where just thinking about having to do it gives you dread? You must have. You must have. You've played many games.
I mean, I fucking when I was growing up.
You saying hello, Lenny? you saying hello? They're listening. Are you saying hello? I don't know if you can hear a wee.
I can hear her sniffling and all that.
Are you saying hello?
The curiosity.
Are you saying hello? She's saying hello.
Big hills.
I'm just gonna put her out on Halloween and just ask her to hill. Sorry, yeah.
I mean, growing up, there wasn't. I felt like most of the time that I got games or played games growing up, it seemed to be games that I liked. The only games I remember that I played or that my parents bought for me that I just was like, this is shit, was Shadow the Hedgehog and the King Kong game. Both of which I got on the same Christmas. Both of which were fucking horrendous. I think the Shadow the Hedgehog, I think a lot of people know that it's just shit. Right? It's just shit. And then fucking the King Kong, I don't know if anybody ever played the King Kong game that came out on like GameCube PS2 back in like fucking early 2000s or whatever it was. But fuck me. Oh, it's so horrid. It's King Kong. It's a King Kong game based on the movie that came out at the time. The one with Jack Black, right? I played that game for. I think I played it for 3 or 4 hours, and I still hadn't seen King Kong. It was just running about the island, fighting random like wee dinosaurs and shit.
Wait a minute. So you're not even King Kong?
No, you don't play as King Kong. You play as the humans. You know, the more interesting part of the movie, played as the humans. No, the big monkey the big monkey that fights dinosaurs and fucking, you know, destroys like cities and shit like that or whatever he does. No, play as the shitty wee humans. That's definitely the more fun thing to do.
What a waste!
It was one of the most boring games I've ever played in my life. I was just the whole time like, where the fuck's King Kong? And then eventually I was like, I'm done with this game. I'm not playing it anymore. Just never touched it. I never finished it. I played for the first few hours, never seen King Kong, that was it, done. I'm like, I'm not playing this.
Even if King Kong was to show up here with fucking bells and whistles, I'm still not playing this game.
It was just like the movie where they spend about 3 hours on that fucking boat.
God.
It's like, god damn it.
See, to be honest, for me, boring is scary. There's nothing scarier than just being bored. Well, not being bored, but like having a game or a book or something that you are looking to enjoy and then being bored by it.
Aye.
That's scary.
It's not very often that's happened to me. I think one of the biggest letdowns I've ever had with something that I was excited for was that ukulele game. Because I love Banjo-Kazooie. It's like one of my favourite games. And when people that worked on it were like, oh, we're forming a new company, we're making this game called Ukulele, and it's basically like a spiritual successor to Banjo. And I remember seeing the trailers for it and it being like, wow, it looks and sounds like a Banjo game. Like, it just feels so much like it, and I was so excited for it, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I even fucking backed the Kickstarter for it as well, because I was so excited for it, and then it came out. You
believed in it?
I believed in it for the trailers. I was like, this feels like it was going to be such a good game, and then it came out, and I played it for like 3 hours, and I just was bored, and was just
really?
And it was just so disappointing. Like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like I wasn't sitting there going like, oh, this is so badly designed, or oh, the controls like shit. All right, and I was just kind of bored. I played it for like a few hours, and then I put it down, and then I had literally had zero desire to play it again. And I never did, and I literally never picked it up again. And I'm not like, I know there's a lot of people that do enjoy that game. I've seen like a lot of people that do like it and that. And if they, people liked it, that's fair. For me personally, I just found it really boring, and I don't know why. And it was just so disappointing to me that I was just like, wow, I was really excited for this, and I just have no interest in playing it after one session.
I mean, obviously, like if you're a fan of the people that, you're a fan of the developers and stuff like that, I can imagine that you gave the game a pretty good go. You know, like you didn't just turn it on and be like, "This is nothing like Banjo-Kazooie." I'm turning it off.
I know at all. Like I played it and I was. I know when the first like Uno and stuff, I was still kind of excited about it and was enjoying it and that, and then it just as it went on, I just had no excitement, no motivation to really want to continue playing. I don't know what it was like at all. But
I get that.
It's a shame.
Especially like if it's something off a series or with developers you like, some things can just come off a wee bit like they don't have the same magic.
Yeah.
There's just something different or there's something missing. I get that.
Right. And I know people will say like, it's just nostalgia goggles where you only like the banjo because it's like for your childhood and stuff. But like, I don't think that's really the case because like, when I had Banjo-Kazooie in the N64, I played it a decent amount, but I didn't play it a ton when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a game that I played a lot in my N64. It was probably one of the lesser played ones, and I never even finished it. And it wasn't until like years and years later, like when I was like 18-ish, maybe 18 to 20, when I was like, you know what, I never finished Banjo. I'm going to try and pick it up again and play it now that I'm older and see if I can actually finish it because I never had before. And then I actually did finish the whole game and I loved it. And I was like, this is such a good game. And it's been like one of my favourite games since. So it's not even a case of like, I only liked it from my childhood because I never even finished it. So I don't know.
I get that.
But
it's maybe just not a good game. It's maybe just not a game that's, well, in your opinion, it's just not a good game. You can have, as I say, you can have like really good feelings for like the developers and the games I've done before, but it's not a guarantee that you're going to like absolutely everything that they produce.
I mean, there's definitely worse games out there, obviously, but like I very rarely buy a game unless I actually think I'm going to like it. So like, it's not very often that I'll buy a game and then just not like it, because usually I know if it's a game that I'm going to like, and that I'm going to enjoy. Like, I'm not going to. I'm not the kind of person that just like buys like every new game that comes out and then I'm just like, oh, that was shite. Like, I only buy a game that I'm like, that looks like I'll like it. So it's not very often. Like, just in terms of like the level of how excited I was for that game compared to how quickly I just stopped playing it and got bored of it, was like definitely one of the worst for me. But there's definitely worse games I've played, for sure.
Aye.
But the worst games I've played are games that I didn't care about. So there wasn't that level of disappointment because I didn't expect anything for it.
Aye. And you can always, like, if it is a game that you don't have any high hopes for, sometimes you can be pleasantly surprised when you play it and you're like, I actually really enjoyed that.
That's been one of my favourite things over the past years, because I've been playing so many games that I never played for my younger years that I'd missed, because I've been streaming and stuff. There's been so many games that I've played that I've heard good things about, but I've no really know much about, and I have no real
desire,
no really investment and no really like expectations for it. I'm just like, oh, let me just try this game out that everybody, that people say is good, and I play it and I'm like, wow, this is like one of the best games I've ever played.
That's pretty good.
So that shit's awesome when you find a gem like that where you're like, wow, this game's fucking outstanding. I can't believe I never played it until now.
Hades is kind of like that for me. Where, right, I'm just going to ask flat out, does Persephone die?
No.
Right. I got right. So you remember, like, back in the ages ago in the podcast, I was like, I seen a spoiler at your bit.
See, I didn't remember what the spoiler was, so I didn't want to say anything. So I wasn't sure what it was you were talking about.
I thought the spoiler was that Persephone died.
How did you come to that conclusion?
Because I'm sure the first line I read before you skipped it was it was Poseidon saying, "I'm sorry to hear about your mother." But there must be some sort of context that I was missing at the time, obviously, and I don't know why I latched onto the idea that, oh, fuck, she dies. So she doesn't?
No.
I have been waiting And I mean, wait, from the moment I seen that, like every time I've done a playthrough, I'm like, is this the time? Is this the time she's going to die? Is this, you know, like I've had all the Olympians doing and stuff like that in the underworld for a lovely wee bit of ambrosia, and I'm like, is she going to die now? Is the meter going to walk in and kill everybody?
As far as I'm aware, I think after that dinner, that's mostly the end of the main narrative of the game.
Aye, I think I've pretty much completed
So
it.
after that, it's only, I think the only other thing you can really do is like there's like other like specific character stories you can go into, like where you fucking what's their face, like I was gonna say Thanos, fucking Thanatos,
Thanatos, yeah.
and all them, like they've got their own wee like kind of personal stories you can go through still, but as far as the main story, I think that's pretty much the end of it after the dinner.
I think I
yeah.
finished it, and I've been pure playing it. Like, when is she going to die?
There's still,
You know?
I mean, there's still a thing. It's still a game you can just sit and just continue playing anyway and have fun with. So
I'm currently trying to save enough darkness so that I can have the chaos effect or something like that. Your house renovations.
ah.
But to what I was going to ask, would you mind if I read the listeners a little scary story? It's a small story. It doesn't take long.
I mean, I go ahead, but if you want to do that.
I'm just thinking, since we're coming towards the end, but I would love to read our listeners a scary story, and it's called "Present at a Hanging" by Ambrose Bierce. An old man named Daniel Baker, living near Lebanon, Iowa, was suspected by his neighbours of having murdered a peddler who had obtained permission to pass the night at his house. This was in 1853, when peddling was more common in the Western country than it is now, and was attended with considerable danger. The peddler, with his pack, traversed the country by all manner of lonely roads, and was compelled to rely upon the country people for his hospitality. This brought him into relation with queer characters, some of whom were not altogether scrupulous in their methods of making a living, murder being an acceptable means to that end. It occasionally occurred that a peddler with diminished pack and swollen purse would be traced to the lonely dwelling of some rough character and never could be traced beyond. This was so in the case of Old Man Baker, as he was always called. Such names are given in the Western settlements only to elderly persons who are not esteemed to the general disrepute of social unworth as affixed the special reproach of age. A peddler came to his house, and none went away. That is all that anybody knew. 7 years later, the Reverend Mr. Cummings, a Baptist minister well known in the part of the country, was driving by Baker's farm one night. It was not very dark. There was a bit of a moon somewhere above the light veil of mist that lay along the earth. Mr. Cummings, who was at all times a cheerful person, was whistling a tune, which he would occasionally interrupt to speak a word of friendly encouragement to his horse. As he came to a little bridge across a dry ravine, he saw the figure of a man standing upon it, clearly outlined against the grey background of a misty forest. The man had something strapped on his back and carried a heavy stick, obviously an intermittent peddler. His attitude had in it a suggestion of abstraction, like that of a sleepwalker. Mr. Cummings reined in his horse when he arrived in front of him, gave him a pleasant salutation, and invited him to a seat in the vehicle. "If you are going my way," he added. The man raised his head, looked him full in the face, but neither answered nor made any further movement. The minister, with good-natured persistence, repeated his invitation. At this the man threw his right hand forward from his side and pointed downwards, as he stood on the extreme edge of the bridge. Mr. Cummings looked past over into the ravine, saw nothing unusual, and withdrew his eyes to address the man again. He had disappeared. The horse, which all this time had been uncommonly restless, gave at the same moment a snort of terror and started to run away. Before he had regained control of the animal, the minister was at the crest of the hill 100 yards along. He looked back and saw the figure again, at the same place and in the same attitude as when he had first observed it. Then, for the first time, he was conscious of a sense of the supernatural and drove home as rapidly as his willing horse would go. On arriving at home, he related his adventure to his family, and early the next morning, accompanied by two neighbours, John White Corwell and Abner Razor, returned to the spot. They found the old man, Baker, hanging by the neck from one of the beams of the bridge, immediately beneath the spot where the apparition had stood. A thick coating of dust, slightly dampened by the mist, covered the floor of the bridge, but the only footprints were of those of Mr. Cummings and his horse. In taking down the body, the men disturbed the loose, friable earth of the slope below it, disclosing human bones already nearly uncovered by the action of the water and frost. They were identified as those of the lost pedlar. At the double inquest, the coroner's jury found that Daniel Baker died by his own hand while suffering from temporary insanity, and that Samuel Moritz was murdered by some person or persons to the jury unknown.
Wow. Where did you find this story?
I've got a big, not a big collection, but I've got a collection of horror stories. Because I like horror tales, like I mentioned earlier. I like H.P. Lovecraft. Don't love his racial views. Let me make that very clear. But some of his stories are absolutely fascinating, and they're good to read. That wasn't H.P. Lovecraft, but that's one of the many classic tales of horror I have. I definitely recommend horror stories to read, because most of the time when you're reading it, the character is finding out about the horror, obviously, as you're reading it.
Yeah.
So it just gives you that wee fright. It's a good wee titillating horror.
Kiwi shooks. Think about that.
Spooky. And you know, if you would like to hear me read some more classic tales of horror, sound off. It could maybe be another channel. It could maybe get billions of views. I could retire. We could add some serious, money to old kids on the pod. Cameras, nice seats.
I think that's how. Have you ever heard the YouTuber Corpse Husband?
I don't think so.
I think that's how he got. I think that's how his channel originally grew.
Right.
As he's got a very, very deep voice.
And instantly recognizable.
And very recognizable, kind of very deep voice. Like very deep voice.
Baritone kind of.
Aye, and
yeah.
I think that's how his YouTube channel got big originally. Was he would just read all these scary stories and stuff because of his voice. It would fit very well, and it was, I think that's what he done. But now he does music and stuff now as well.
That's cool.
And I think he still does a lot of these scary story shit.
Versatile.
Yeah. He's a pretty cool guy. I found out about him because of there's a lot of streamers that I follow. He started playing started playing games with and stuff, and would come on their streams, and he seems like a very cool guy.
That's cool.
But
I would like it.
There's definitely a market for that kind of stuff, scary story reading.
I have thought about it before, where I would I've seen it on YouTube where people read scary stories and they're artists, so they've illustrated the stories as well. I've seen that and I've thought about that, but it's a lot of work.
Aye.
It's a lot of work, and I don't know. I guess I don't have the time to kind of give myself to do it, if that makes sense. Especially if it's not currently kind of making me any money.
It's kind of hard to it's hard to put that much time and effort into something that's not going to necessarily come back and I have a monetary
I mean, I guess like see if I had more time. I guess if I had more time to kind of just do it on my own volition, then I definitely probably would do it. But it's kind of at a point where I can't justify taking, say, that amount of time out my week to work on it, and then be like, oh, shit, I've not done any actual other work, and now I can't eat.
Aye.
Extreme example, but yeah, you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
You kind of, yeah.
It's the kind of thing that it's the kind of thing that takes a lot of fucking work to do. Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons that animation was dead for so many years on YouTube, because YouTube's algorithm changed to where people that make animations would basically make barely any money, because it went for like, oh, the best way to make money on YouTube was, you know, uploading fucking very quickly, consistently short videos, and it was like, well, animation takes fucking ages, so you know, for somebody who's uploading every few months or something like that, they're making like no money, and it's like you can't even, people just couldn't live off it anymore. So it was like animation was like dead for fucking years on YouTube because it, like, because I mind the fucking back in the day, back in the early like
mid
Flash
2000s,
movies, like Flash movies,
yeah.
like there was animations all over the place on YouTube and Newgrounds and all that. That was such a big thing, and then for years it was just nobody was really doing it because it was like, it's just not worth it.
I think it definitely shows in some of the videos that I've seen where they've kind of cut corners in terms of animation.
Aye. The story time animators are now a big thing.
Yeah,
where it's more animatics than animations, but it's still, there's still like they still make some pretty good content area.
It's still good work. Yeah, it's still good work.
But it's like they kind of have to do that. You can't fucking. It's not sustainable to have a YouTube channel where you can only upload every fucking few months or something.
I know.
It's like you're not going to make any, but even if you've got getting a lot of views, you're not going to make that much money off it.
What are you having for dinner tonight?
Don't know.
Lainey's just heard the word dinner, and now she's got that wee wagging tail. You telling everybody it's dinner time? You telling everybody it's dinner time?
Get my dinner. Right now. Right now.
Yes. I'm coming. I'm wrapping up. Just give me 5 minutes. So that's Lainey. Yes, hello. You saying hello? Hey, what are you having for dinner?
I've absolutely no idea.
I better stop saying it.
She's telling you to fucking move your arse. Get her fed.
Well, listeners, it sounds like I don't have a choice in this moment. I'm going to have to wrap up there, but thanks for listening. And join us next week on the pod where we'll be talking about something.
God knows what, but I'm sure it'll be interesting, because it always is.
It'll be a conversation for intellectuals and people barely listening.
Yes. Thank you all for listening. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.